Hi there, true crime explorers. Picture this: a foggy London evening in 1888, gas lamps casting eerie shadows on cobblestone streets. A figure disappears into the mist, leaving behind something that would shock Victorian society to its core, not a trace of physical evidence. How did they do it? Well, stick around because this mystery connects to an even more incredible case we'll explore at the end of our countdown. Top 10 most shocking Victorian era cases that rocked society. 10. The Great Tea Swindle of 1873. Imagine this: half of London's upper class sipping their afternoon tea, completely unaware they're drinking nothing but coloured water and ground leaves. A network of sophisticated swindlers had been selling fake tea to over 500 prestigious establishments. The mastermind, former tea merchant Sebastian Wells, who had spent 15 years building a reputation as one of London's most reliable tea importers. Wells understood something crucial about Victorian society: reputation was everything. He used this knowledge to create an elaborate facade, complete with a prestigious warehouse in the East India Docks and connections to seemingly legitimate trading companies in China. His genius lay in understanding that nobody would question a respected merchant's integrity. The operation involved an incredible network of counterfeiters who could reproduce the exact look and smell of premium tea leaves. They even went as far as creating fake documentation from Chinese tea plantations, complete with detailed shipping manifests and quality certificates. The sophistication of their operation was unprecedented. They didn't just sell fake tea, they created an entire fake tea trade. What makes this case particularly fascinating is how it exposed the vulnerabilities in Victorian commerce. The authorities took 3 years to crack the case because Wells had infiltrated every level of the tea trade, from dock workers to quality inspectors. When finally exposed in 1876, investigators discovered he had sold over £1.5 million worth of fake tea, equivalent to about £200 million today. 9. The Penny Dreadful Publishers Scheme. This case really knocked me for 6. Theodore Blackwood, a struggling publisher, created an empire built on elaborate fake true crime stories that captivated Victorian London for nearly a decade. But this wasn't just about publishing fictional tales. Blackwood created an entire alternate reality that played into Victorian society's deepest fascinations. His genius lay in understanding the Victorian obsession with respectability and sensation. He hired out-of-work actors to pose as witnesses, created elaborate false documentation, and even staged crime scenes for newspaper photographers. The scheme went beyond simple storytelling. It was immersive entertainment before anyone had even conceived of such a thing. Blackwood's operation employed over 50 people, including former journalists, actors, and even retired police officers who would verify his stories. He created detailed backstories for each tale, complete with family histories, witness statements, and physical evidence. Some of his cases became so famous that tourist guides would point out locations where they supposedly occurred. The scheme wasn't discovered until 1882, when one of his actors, facing a crisis of conscience, confessed to the whole operation. The subsequent investigation revealed how Blackwood had manipulated public opinion and exposed the incredible gullibility of even the most respected newspapers of the era. The case led to significant reforms in journalistic practices and forever changed how newspapers verified their sources. 8. The Great Portrait Forgery. Like the ultimate 1870s art world party gone wrong, this case centers around Isabella Crawford, perhaps the most talented art forger of the Victorian era. What makes her story particularly fascinating is that she didn't just forge paintings, she created an entire fictional history of British aristocracy. Crawford's genius lay in her understanding of both art and aristocratic society. She didn't just forge portraits, she created entire family histories, complete with documentation, letters, and diary entries spanning generations. Her technique for aging canvases was so revolutionary that modern art conservators still study her methods. The scale of her operation was staggering. Over 15 years, she created more than 300 lost portraits, complete with elaborate provenances. She even created fictional aristocratic families, complete with detailed genealogies, to attribute her works to. The forgeries were so convincing that the Royal Academy displayed several pieces, and many ended up in the private collections of Britain's most prominent families. What's particularly incredible is that Crawford managed to infiltrate the highest levels of Victorian society. She hosted elaborate dinner parties where she would discover lost portraits in her fictional family archives. The scheme only unraveled when an expert noticed that some of her portraits featured clothing details that wouldn't have existed in the purported time period. 7. The railway ticket scandal. A thoroughly modern-feeling case that rocked Victorian transportation. This scheme exposed how vulnerable Britain's rapidly expanding railway system was to manipulation. The mastermind, former railway clerk James Whitmore, created a shadow network that operated across 6 different railway companies. Whitmore's scheme was beautifully simple, yet devilishly complex in execution. He discovered that tickets could be collected, cleaned, and reissued multiple times before showing visible wear. His network of railway clerks would collect specific ticket types, which would then be cleaned, redistributed, and resold at different stations. The operation grew to include over 40 stations across Britain, with a sophisticated system of codes and signals to coordinate their activities. They even created a fake printing company that supposedly supplied tickets to various railway companies, allowing them to introduce completely counterfeit tickets into the system. The scheme was only discovered when mathematical prodigy Ada Harrison, working as a statistical analyst for Great Western Railway, noticed impossible passenger patterns in the data. Her analysis revealed that some routes were showing more passengers than the physical capacity of the trains could handle. 6. The banking hours heists. This one's particularly wild. 3 former bank employees, Henry Whittaker, Charles Preston, and Margaret Blackwood, exploited a fundamental flaw in London's banking system. They discovered that the time delay between branches recording transactions created a window where the same funds could be used multiple times. Their scheme was based on an intimate understanding of Victorian banking practices. In an era before electronic communications, banks relied on end-of-day reconciliation to balance their books. The trio created a complex system of timed withdrawals and deposits that allowed them to use the same funds up to 5 times before the transactions were recorded. They operated across 12 different banks, using a network of runners to coordinate their activities. The scheme was so sophisticated that they created their own ledger system to track their transactions and ensure they didn't trigger any suspicions. What's particularly fascinating is how they used Victorian society's rigid time schedules to their advantage. They knew exactly how long it took for information to travel between branches. Don't miss out. Explore our handpicked true crime recommendations, links in the description. 5. The Inheritance Imposter. One of the most emotionally visceral cases of the era. Alexander Hart, the man of 1,000 families, managed to convince multiple wealthy families that he was their long-lost relative. His performances were so convincing that he could seamlessly integrate himself into high society. Hart's genius lay in his incredible attention to detail. He would spend months researching family histories, learning specific mannerisms, and even studying family medical histories. He could speak multiple languages and dialects, and had an uncanny ability to adopt the specific social customs of different class levels. His most audacious conquest was claiming to be the lost heir to the Pembroke estate. He spent 3 years living as the supposed heir, completely fooling the family and their entire social circle. His attention to detail was so complete that he even recreated childhood memories, using information gleaned from old family servants. 4. The Phantom Property Dealer. Talk about a tour de force in deception. William Ashworth created an elaborate scheme that exploited the complexities of Victorian property law. He managed to sell some of London's most prestigious addresses multiple times without ever actually owning them. Ashworth's scheme worked because he understood something crucial about Victorian society. People were often more concerned with appearances than verification. He created a network of fake solicitors' offices and would conduct property viewings during times he knew the actual owners would be away. His operation was so sophisticated that he created entire fake land registries. He even managed to convince several members of Parliament that they were getting exclusive deals on premium London properties. The scheme operated for 5 years and involved properties worth millions in today's money. 3. The Great Diamond Switch. A genuinely affecting case that transformed the jewelry trade. This scheme, orchestrated by master craftsman Thomas Lloyd, involved replacing high-quality diamonds with near-perfect glass replicas. The genius lay in the timing. Lloyd would switch the stones during routine cleaning and maintenance. Lloyd's expertise in gemology allowed him to create glass replicas that could fool even experienced jewelers under initial inspection. He developed a revolutionary technique for aging the glass to make it appear authentically worn. The scheme operated successfully for 7 years, affecting some of the most prestigious jewelry houses in London. 2. The Stock Market Manipulator. This case laid the foundations for many financial regulations. Edward Thornton created an elaborate network of false companies that fundamentally undermined the Victorian financial system. His scheme involved creating seemingly legitimate businesses that would generate artificial market activity. Thornton's genius lay in his understanding of how Victorian society valued reputation and appearances. He would host elaborate business presentations featuring paid actors posing as successful investors. The scheme was so convincing that several prominent banks invested heavily in his fictional enterprises. 1. The Anonymous Society. And now, connecting back to our opening mystery, the most sophisticated network of Victorian-era swindlers ever uncovered a secret society of former law enforcement officials who used their knowledge to commit perfect crimes. Operating for over 3 decades, they combined elements from every other case on our list. The society's members included former detectives, lawyers, and even judges. They used their intimate knowledge of law enforcement techniques to stay one step ahead of investigations. Their operations ranged from elaborate confidence schemes to sophisticated financial frauds. Their downfall came from that mysterious figure in our opening scene, a junior member who got cold feet and left behind an encoded ledger. When finally decoded, it revealed not just their methods, but their connections to several other cases on our list. The Anonymous Society had either trained or assisted many of the other criminals we've discussed. What a thoroughly engaging journey through Victorian-era deception. These cases fundamentally changed how society approached security, finance, and criminal investigation. They pushed Victorian society to develop new investigation techniques and regulations that we still use today. If you enjoyed this trip back in time, don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments which of these ingenious schemes surprised you the most. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of true crime.